everybody. Thank you for coming to our session today from the Learning Development Committee on Mindfulness. We have Amy Nadalin here, who is from University Health Services. And Amy actually, she also runs some internships and teaches a class for public health as well. So let's welcome Amy.
All right, well, thanks for having me today. And we are going to start by doing just a little bit of a brief meditation, or not really meditation, but just kind of a centering exercise. Just to kind of allow us to transition from where we were and everything that we're carrying with us today to just kind of being able to be here now and be present. So it's great if you can put your feet on the ground, flat on the ground, and you can rest your hands on the top of your laps. If you're comfortable doing so, I welcome you to close your eyes. If you'd like to keep your eyes open, you can just maintain a soft gaze, maybe about an inch or so in front of your knees. So you can begin by just taking a couple deep inhales to just start to bring yourself to this space. So in and out through your nose, so really big inhale. And you can just let your exhale out, an audible exhale, like. Imagining with each exhale, just whatever you're carrying with you here into this room today is just kind of falling to the ground, knowing that you can pick it back up when you leave here. Maybe with your next exhale, imagining that your body is becoming heavier in the chair. Just kind of start tuning into the sensations of your body sitting here. Feeling your feet resting on the floor, your hands resting on your lap. Noticing the pull of gravity pulling your body down and the sensation of your body sitting in the chair. Doing a brief scan from maybe your toes, moving out through your body, noticing any areas that you're holding tension right now. Paying especially close attention to areas like your hips, your belly, tuning in to see whatever emotions or stresses you may be carrying in your chest, your shoulders. With each exhale, just imagining these areas softening. Relaxing your shoulders down. Removing any tension in your hands. Relaxing your jaw, unhinging that, dropping your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Smoothing out the area of your forehead and your temples. Now taking maybe 8 to 10 breaths or so to really just focus your attention on your breathing. Pay attention to wherever you feel your breath most. Some of us, we feel it right underneath our nose. Others most easily detect your breath in your chest, your belly. So wherever it is, don't try to make your breath anything different than it is. Just let it be and place your attention there without any judgment. That your mind has wandered, which I'm sure it probably has by now, just note that you got caught up in thought and again, return it back to your breath. Now as we begin to transition, just bringing your attention and awareness back to the fact that you're sitting in this chair, sitting in this room, wiggling your toes and fingers, taking a stretch if that feels good, and when you're ready, you open your eyes. All right, how's everyone feel? All right, a little bit about myself before we begin. So, again, my name is Amy. I work in University Health Service. I'm a senior health educator there, and as Stephanie mentioned, I also teach a couple classes in the public health department. I am a two-time graduate of University of Rochester. I was a BCS student, and then did my master's in the School of Nursing. So I'm super excited to be back here in this role as well. And part of what I do is I direct the Mindful University project, so we're going to learn a lot about that first. So we trained 10 employees across the university this summer to be mindfulness teachers, and so all of us are trained to be able to lead meditation workshops for students, faculty, and staff. We'll learn a little bit more about those, as well as run half-day silent retreats. This year, and lots of fun things coming up. So, I'm excited to see all of your interest in this subject. All right. So, our journey today, as I said, we're going to start off by talking a little bit more about the Mindful University project. We're going to talk about why mindfulness is important here and why now. Why is this a really good time for us to focus on this as a community? For those of you that are brand new to meditation, who's brand new? Who's never really heard much about it? Or so some people kind of practice already, and so we'll talk a little bit about what mindfulness is, the difference between mindfulness and meditation, where it came from, the evidence behind it. And then we're going to do some fun activities and talk really specifically about mindfulness in you, in your role here at the university, and your role as an individual, and how you can kind of incorporate this perhaps into your life or into your work. And then we're going to do a mindfulness break, hence the beans in front of you. And those of you that don't have beans, I'll make sure that you get some before we begin. And some discussion resources. All right, so what is the Mindful University project? So this is our kind of working mission, I would say. We have an advisory committee that we're working on kind of tweaking this, but this is really what the essence is. It started as a donation from an alumnus last year, so we've had one full academic year as part of the project already, so that's kind of where the support comes from. But we really seek to empower our campus and build a culture of mindful presence. From the students to the staff that they work with, to the faculty they're in the classroom with, to their residence halls and where they eat their food and where they live. Really, how can we create this culture that embodies mindful presence? And we really think that this is important in order to, our ultimate goal is to help support our students. In order to help our students, we have to kind of be healthy and mindful ourselves. But we want to be able to improve their mental well-being, boost their academic flourishing, increase that resilience to stress, which I'll talk a little bit about in a moment about how stressed our students are, I'm sure you're aware. And then reduce clinical levels of anxiety and depression, which keeps increasing every year. So how do we do it? What is the Mindful University project all about, kind of on the ground? What have we been doing? So we want to create really safe and inclusive spaces so that this practice is available to everyone here, regardless of who they are, where they're from. So we have introductory Learn to Meditate workshops. So those are going to be called, as of this fall, Koru workshops, and that's the name of the training that we received, which is an evidence-based training specifically for college students and those that support college students. So it's pretty cool. Came out of Duke University. So we have a Koru Basic 4-week program and a Koru 2.0, so you can take 8 weeks in total. And then we'll also support that with drop-in meditation sittings. So for instance, this semester, every Friday, I will be leading a 20-minute compassion meditation. So you can learn loving kindness and more compassionate approaches to meditation. We'll be having mindful walking programs, breath awareness sitting meditations. We'll have a meditation specifically for those identifying in the LGBTQ+ community and our students of color. So lots of different opportunities to practice. As I mentioned before, we'll have half-day silent retreats. So we have 3 of those scheduled, 1 in the fall semester and then 2 in the spring. I'm blanking on the fall date right now, but the spring date is Leap Day, the 29th of February. That was an easy one to remember. And then another one, I think April 4th. So we're going to hold those in the chapel. Everyone is invited. We can hold many, many people. And it's just 4 hours of a silent meditation retreat where we'll do breath awareness, eating meditation, walking meditation, gentle yoga, and free for everybody to join us. Also including practices such as yoga and walking, noting that contemplative practices go far beyond just meditating. So how can we incorporate some more of those? Faculty and staff training. So one of my main initiatives this year is to get more into the classroom. I'll talk about that a little bit later, the work that I've done in my classroom so far, but really starting to work with faculty to be able to kind of bring this into the classroom as well. And we offer educational workshops. They're called Everyday Mindfulness series, which is once a month. I think it's the 3rd Thursday of the month from 2 to 3 o'clock. Will be a workshop on different areas of meditation from like mindful communication, mindful technology use, building balance in your life. So those are some of the topics that we have scheduled. And then really cross-campus integration. So I've been going out to departments such as this and just talking a little bit about the project, what we do, and how departments can get involved. And this is kind of our overall long-term approach, taking from the public health realm the socio-ecological model, recognizing that we can't just teach people how to meditate. You really, in order to have a culture change, need to support it at all different levels. So this is kind of lots of the different ways that we're integrating this into our community. So why here? Anyone notice that our students get kind of stressed out sometimes? Right? As do we, I'm sure. So a little bit of data to show here, both from our nationally as well as specific to our students. The Higher Education Research Institute at UCLA, years and years ago, started to ask the question of incoming first-year students, have you felt or do you feel overwhelmed by all that you've had to do? So originally only about 8% of students were arriving feeling overwhelmed, and this is, again, keep in mind nationally. But by 2016, which was the last date that I could find data from, was nearly 41%. So lots of students just arriving overwhelmed before they even step foot on campus. And lots of different reasons for that. The jury's out onto specifically one reason that's causing it, but here's some of the factors. Of course, the pressure, so financial pressure for paying for the increased costs of a college education, being over-involved and measuring up to their peers, so feeling that they need to be able to participate in many activities and athletics and Greek life and lots of student activities, and just really being over-involved. Fear of measuring up to their peers. I need to stay up later than everyone else. I need to study more. I need to get better grades. And research shows that this is really self-inflicted pressure. So not necessarily pressure coming from family members or professors, really self-inflicted pressure. Obviously, social media playing an influence in this as well brings out a lot of comparison and judgment, fear of missing out. And then our students arriving, what we're noticing a lot in the research with lack of resiliency. So lack of just being able to kind of take care of themselves and deal with setbacks and failures in a really healthy and sustainable way. So some of the things that came up in terms of lack of resiliency, things like the increase of 504 plans, which is usually like elementary, middle, and high school for students that need accommodations, academic accommodations. It's great to be able to have students have these accommodations, but then when they get here and they're on their own, they really have to navigate that themselves, and that can be really difficult for some students. snowplow parents or helicopter parents or whatever you want to call it, but just parents that have paved the way so that these students have never really experienced a lot of failure before. And then the creation of safe spaces. Although this is wonderful to be able to create safe spaces for our students that are meeting them and identifying different communities to be able to feel safe expressing themselves. But then what does that mean when they go out into the real world and there's not these safe spaces anymore? How are they going to bounce back? How are they going to create safety for themselves? And how does this contribute to their feelings of just being really overwhelmed about life overall? So some specific data to our students. So this is from the 2017 National College Health Assessment. This is a survey that we do every few years. We're due to do it, launch it again this November. And we ask our students a variety of, it's like a 20-minute quiz of all sorts of different health information. But we pull a lot of mental health data from this. And so we found that 64% felt overwhelming anxiety in the last 12 months. 90% felt overwhelmed that all they had to do. So this isn't just first year, but all of our students, 90% of them felt overwhelmed. 60% were showing signs of depression, feeling lonely, sad, depressed, hopeless. And many, more than half, not feeling rested, and they're sleepy during the day. So, so this is painting kind of a picture where we really should maybe step in and offer some help. What can we do to kind of change this? And in terms of our trajectory, so we've been tracking this data for many years now. So looking at this particular question asked, did things like stress, sleep problems, anxiety, did that cause you to have a negative impact on your academics? So did you have to drop a class? Did you receive a failing grade? Did you have to stop your research work? Any of those things that happened. So you can see back in 2010 to 2017, the trajectory is certainly getting steeper and steeper. On the right of that bottom line is not our data, but what the recommendations are from the Healthy Campus 2020, which is like, this is where they thought we should be in 2020. So as you see, it's 2020 right around the corner, and we're really not anywhere close to that. So it's really, again, cause for us to need to do something about this. So there's lots going on across the country in terms of mindfulness in higher education. Some research, some meta-analyses that I've kind of pulled saying that focusing on mindfulness and meditation on a college community really shows some positive benefits. So there is research that supports it. And then on the right is the evidence supporting the KORU program that I mentioned in the training that we received. So students that went through that program perceived less stress, greater self-compassion, better sleep, and higher overall scores of mindfulness. And then these are my students from last semester. So I teach a class called Pure Health Advocacy, PH 216. And within this class, they learn how to become peer health educators on campus, and then they do an internship with me. But I thought, if I'm going to go out and talk to faculty about how to create a mindful classroom, I should probably do it myself first. It's something I really am passionate about. So I revamped my syllabus and have a page now just on how to create a mindful classroom. Recommendations for students in terms of apps they can use, or different things that they can do to be mindful in terms of their education, like how they can approach just walking into the classroom when they cross the threshold of the door, mindfully taking a deep breath. Or before an exam, we would do a brief meditation like we did today to kind of center them. Or before they do a forum post that they're required to do every week, how can they mindfully approach that with their reading? And then I did start off every class with just 3 minutes of a focusing exercise. Students were welcome to join in, or they could kind of just sit there and wait until we were done. About half of them started at the beginning of the semester, and by the end of the semester, I would say pretty much 99% of the class was participating, and I did receive really good feedback from students at the end of the semester that they really enjoyed that, and it helped them to focus and transition. All right. Taking another breath. Just threw a lot of information at you about Mindful University Project. What questions do you have about that part of the presentation, or any things that you might want to know a little bit more about before we shift into the practice itself? Yeah.
I've also heard mindfulness being used in relation to this concept called radical acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of just intrigued with this notion, and I just want to see if you feel that that's connected to this, or if you've heard that term. And how do you balance, I always wonder, how do you balance a mindset of radical acceptance with when you're in a situation where something needs to change? So how do you both accept radically where things are, but also where there's a need to make change?
Right, so I think in the realm of kind of the world of mindfulness, acceptance means something different than what you might think acceptance otherwise. So a lot of times you hear the word acceptance and you think, you know, I have to accept things as they are, I have to be okay with that. But when we talk about it, especially from a mindfulness or a Buddhist perspective, acceptance means just kind of being able to say it is what it is. In order for you to make a decision about how to react or respond, is a better word, to what it is and how you want to maybe make a change that needs to be made, you first have to accept that it is what it is. It's there, it's happening. Maybe this inequality is existing or whatever it is. So that's the important first step, is to just radically accept whatever it is, and not necessarily being okay with it, because what it is might be really difficult, right? But in order to make a conscious decision about how to act and how to respond, you need to come to that point of acceptance first. Yeah.
That's great.
This isn't really a question, so, and I know you asked for a question, but what I'm thinking of is we're in a high stress moment in our library, but also we know as students come in, they're going to be in high stress, and sometimes it's really easy to absorb that,
Yes.
or sometimes like project it onto someone. And so I just want to say, keep in mind if you have like, hey, this is how that can, even those small things, I know I personally will like that, so just in case, because I've looked at the research and stuff, so I'm like, A-okay, but I thought I would at least plant that seed while we're at it.
Yeah.
So, or at
Yeah.
least so they can all be like, Eileen, remember what she said. Indeed.
And we'll talk
Reasonably
about that
accountable, yeah.
shortly too when we do a breakout activity about how you can integrate this into the work that you do. So a lot of times if you're meeting with a student that's bringing and offloading a whole lot onto you, how you can kind of recognize that they're in that state, and maybe just taking a moment to be like, let's just breathe together. Let's just, take a break and calm down and or just kind of accept what's going on right now for you so that we can better respond to it. And then being very conscious about how you're feeling afterwards. I know in some of the work that I do, I'm a basics counselor, so when students get transported because they have too much to drink, they need to come and have a conversation with me about their activities. And a lot can come out in those meetings, and it's a lot that you kind of take with you. So I've learned that you kind of got to take a moment, just, if you have a door, if you're lucky enough to have a door, or if you can take a walk, or whatever it is, before you kind of project that onto the next person that you're going to work with.
It's a hot potato.
Yeah, exactly. Like how can you stop that chain and just kind of process what you've been offloaded on.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to shift a minute now for learning a little bit more about mindfulness and meditation, especially for those of you that this is brand new to, or maybe some of you that are really already integrated into practice. Feel free, especially to just jump in here as well with your thoughts. But in terms of a definition of mindfulness, this is, I would say, John Kabat-Zinn's definition is what you see most often describing what mindfulness really is. And what he says is it's awareness, paying attention to the present moment. And we do that on purpose. So we purposely say we're going to pay attention to what's happening right now. And we're going to do it without judgment. So we're not going to say, oh, this is good, or this is bad, or I like this, or I don't like that. We're just going to, again, it is what it is. Whatever arises in the present moment, we're just going to note that. And it's really about knowing what's on your mind. So how often do we just let our mind take over and we have no idea what those patterns are and what those kind of tornadoes are that happen in our mind that just kind of pull us down. So mindfulness allows you to become a little bit more aware of what the habits of your mind are, so then you can respond to those in a better way. So lots of kind of benefits of mindfulness and meditation. Here's some of them here. We'll talk about the evidence for some of these things in a minute, but it enhances self-awareness, wellness, and resilience. It allows us to be able to, not be pushed down, pushed around so much by the things happening in our lives, can bounce back a little bit easier. Lots of evidence to support that it decreases the stress response in the brain and actually changes the neurophysiology in the brain itself. Especially in terms of our students' benefits, improves focus and concentration, allows you to communicate better with others, allows you to really like people better, or like people more, especially that compassion meditation. Like the side effect of that one is that you'll actually like people more, so that's a good one. Allows you to experience life with less judgment and reactivity. So you're not going around judging everything that happens to you and everyone you come across, and you're not reacting to every little stimulus that appears in your life. Onto it, kind of go with the flow. That's called equanimity. So you're kind of just riding those waves rather than being pushed around by them. And a lot of times people, if you really think about it, kind of get confused with the difference between mindfulness and meditation. Well, oftentimes they're just maybe used interchangeably or can get kind of muddy. So meditation, I like to use kind of the analogy that meditation is like a sport. So if you think of a sport, there's lots of different sports that you can play, right? Soccer, football, tennis, or you can do individual sports. You can, run, do yoga, all these different types of sports. So that's the same thing with meditation. Meditation is like an umbrella term, just like sports is. And there's lots of different forms of meditation that fall under this umbrella. So there's breath awareness, where kind of like what we were doing here in the opening, just being aware of your breath coming in and out when your mind wanders. You notice that and you begin again. There's open awareness meditation, so you can just be open to whatever arises in your consciousness, whether it's a sound or a feeling or an emotion or a thought. You note that and then come back. You can observe emotions. You can do walking meditation, so that's really good for people that find it difficult, especially initially, to sit in one place at a time. You can do a walking meditation. Body scans, where you pay really close attention to every bit of your body, and not trying to change it, but just noticing what's there. That can really help for people that find that they're very reactive. So that practice really helps you just notice without reacting, without trying to change things. Mantra meditation is you're saying a phrase over and over again. And then loving kindness, which is expressing compassion to yourself and then to others. So those are all the different types of meditations, and you can do one type when you're sitting, or you can kind of be sitting there and you can do a couple of these. So I often kind of do a body scan, see where I am, sense my body, and then I'll focus on my breath. And then a lot of times at the end, I'll wrap up with like a loving kindness or a gratitude meditation. So lots of different things that you can kind of pull from. And then the difference between meditation and mindfulness is meditation is the practice of mindfulness. So very similar to if you are working out, and the practice of getting stronger, getting fitter is going to the gym, right? So you go to the gym and you lift weights and you run and you build your endurance so that you can like climb a flight of stairs without getting out of breath, which I still can't do, but that's okay. Or you might be able to kind of pick up the groceries and run into the house, and you can carry more without getting fatigued. You're stronger. So that's the same thing with meditation and mindfulness. So when you're sitting in practice and doing your meditation, that's like building your mindfulness muscle, we call it. So that's the same thing as like you're going to the gym and you're lifting weights and you're running. And that allows you to be able to be more mindful in your day-to-day life. So I don't like to say that there's a goal in meditation, but the goal, if there was one, is to be more mindful in everyday life. Like that's what we really want. We want to not react. We want to not be overstressed. We want to be able to be present for what's happening. So by sitting and doing that practice, and the practice itself is the breathing, or whatever you're focusing your attention on, your mind wanders, you notice your mind wanders, and then you bring it back. It's the mind wandering and bringing it back, that's the muscle building right there. So that's good if you are sitting there and you're like, my mind is racing and 1,000 times I lost my breath. That was a really good workout. You really built your mindfulness muscle a lot during that sitting. So I oftentimes hear from students especially saying, like, I can't turn my mind off, I'm horrible at meditation. I'm always losing my breath, I'm always getting wrapped up in thoughts. But then I'm like, do you notice it and bring it back? Well, yeah. Well, that's it. You were really successful. So that's where the practice really comes. Any questions on that? Some myths. I like to bust a lot of these myths with our students, especially, as I said, must have a clear and quiet mind. Nope. The busier your mind is, probably the more benefit you're going to get from meditation. It's because you're going to really be able to start to calm that. Meditation isn't difficult, and it doesn't take a long time to see benefits. So it's literally as easy as sitting on your bed, closing your eyes for 3 minutes. And evidence shows that in as little as 10 minutes a day, you can have significant changes in your brain structure itself, which is pretty cool. You don't need a lot of things to make it happen. A lot of times people will say that, you use it to escape your pain. You want to get away from things. But really you're moving towards things. So especially when we note emotions or feelings that come up, it's more turning towards that, or if you have physical pain, it's turning your attention towards those things, which then you'll find when you give those things, like the emotional pain or the physical pain, you give them your attention, they'll actually dissipate and go away a lot quicker than if you're constantly having an aversion to them and pushing them away. It's not a relaxation exercise. If you go to sit down and meditate with the goal of being relaxed, I guarantee that's probably not going to happen. But over time, it's kind of another one of those really good side effects that you'll notice over time you may become more relaxed. But sometimes, it brings up a lot of stuff, which can be stressful. But over time, it can help. And then this is my friend John Kabat-Zinn here that I mentioned earlier with the kind of definition that we all use. So he was the one responsible for kind of really bringing the practice of meditation to the West. So it started way back in the 1970s, and he developed a program called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR. This is a very evidence-based 8-week protocol for learning mindfulness to reduce stress. Tons and tons of research on it. We actually, if you are on the Employee Wellness Benefit Plan, you can take an 8-week MBSR class for free as part of your benefits. It's excellent. I recommend it highly. And usually it costs me $350 or so to take the class out in the community. So it's a really great benefit. And it's a great way to start learning mindfulness meditation. Let's see, so other influencers I listed there. They started a place called Insight Meditation Society back in the 70s as well. So this is kind of like the go-to place, especially on the East Coast, to go for a retreat. A lot of the great teachers teach there. But this is kind of how we got it here in the United States. Really secularized the practice of meditation, so kind of taking the religion out of it and making it more of something that anyone can do, approachable to anyone, regardless of your religion or background or beliefs. And then evidence. As I said, lots of evidence supporting it. Noting that it is still an emerging field. So while the evidence is really increasing, we haven't really gotten to the point yet where a lot of it, other than the MBSR stuff, is being replicated. And that's kind of when it comes to the gold standard, is that you can replicate things over and over and over again. But really some great promising research. There's also some question around how to measure the benefits of meditation and how to determine if someone's a novice meditator versus an expert meditator, like what makes someone an expert. So lots of things to kind of still filter out, but overall the evidence is really solid that supports it. So as you see here, Kabat-Zinn is really involved in stress reduction. Sarah Lazar has done a lot of work with cortical thickening, meaning that she noticed that when people meditate, the areas of your brain that are responsible for attention actually increase in gray matter, which is pretty cool. Also, same thing, Greta Holtzel with the hippocampus. So the more you meditate, your hippocampus actually grows more connections, so you're able to learn and focus a little bit more easily. So lots of pretty good things. All right, that's the end of my talking at you. Now we will talk together. So I wanted you to break out into groups of like 2 or 3 people, whatever you'd like, and talk about some of these questions here. So this is really where you can integrate what I've just talked about, Mindful University Project, or mindfulness and meditation overall. How can you bring that to your work that you do here in your role at the university? You know, what ways can it influence your community? What ways can it influence you or the students that you work with? So I just wanted to talk about that as you work together, I'm sure on a daily basis anyways, and talk about like what can we do with this? I don't want to leave you here today with just like, oh, that was great information, but I never have to think about it again. Like, what can you take out of this talk and then start integrating into your work? So I'll give you maybe 5 minutes or 4 minutes or so to do that. We'll talk about it, and then we'll do the meetings. All right, I'll ask you to just kind of bring your conversations back to the lecture. Sounds like there's lots of good thoughts. So who would like to share in terms of what you talked about, what resonated with you? Yeah.
We were saying that the mindfulness, like being mindful of what we're feeling. Like I gave the example, sometimes I'll be really angry, and then I literally have a wheel, like a picture that describes all the feelings, and I look at it sometimes, and I'm like, oh no, I'm frustrated, or I'm feeling silence, or I'm feeling like it doesn't matter. We were talking about how sometimes this might resonate with some others, where it's like, oh, don't worry about it, don't get upset, that it makes us more upset, and we can't sometimes quite cope with that, but it's like recognizing like, I'm not upset, I'm frustrated, I'm worried that we won't be able to help someone, and so that sort of mindfulness of being really aware of what's going on might give us a better way to express it, and if we can, maybe we could also encourage the people who are feeling this, that they're reacting to, you're upset, you should calm down, and so, getting that give and take of, oh, what's happening, and it's not, say it was me that was going, calm down, that I can be like, let's just sit with a minute with what this is, and I'm feeling attacked now because you're yelling at me, and so like maybe that could get in the way of the spiral of, you're not listening to me, you're just angry all the time. I'm not quoting. For the record, I'm not quoting today. So we thought this might be helpful, to both sort of tamp down that spiral.
Yeah, really being able to be mindful of what's arising in you, and being able to, as I said earlier, respond to that rather than reacting.
Did I do an okay job of what we talked about? I want to make sure that was okay. I want to make sure I was accurate, not just here's.
Yeah, giving you that some extra space. And I think it's really important, especially throughout the day. I mean, think about how many emotions that you've already felt so far today, and it's only 1 o'clock, right? I'm sure you felt maybe some glimpses of happiness and excitement and frustration or anger and all these things coming up throughout your day. And it's important, like you said, to kind of figure out what those are so that then you can respond to them. And a lot of times, too, understanding what's underneath them and what's driving them, and what needs aren't being met and things like that. So, is anyone familiar with nonviolent communication? Yeah. So I took a class with the Gandhi Institute on nonviolent communication, and they talk a lot about your needs and your feelings, and what needs aren't being met. Because a lot of times when there is conflict, it's because someone's needs aren't being met, and you're not able to communicate those. So as you were saying about kind of identifying, it's not anger, it's frustration. So a really good, in nonviolent communication, they use something called GROK cards, G-R-O-K. And it's just a stack of cards that has all different needs on one side, some feelings. Those 2 separate decks of cards. But there's also an app. It's GROK, G-R-O-K. G-R-O-K is the name of the app. It's free. And it has a list. It's just an app with a list of needs and feelings. So that might be helpful to help you to kind of identify, what am I really feeling right now? So then I can respond to that a little better. What else came up in your discussions?
So we talked about how we have transitions all the time from one thing to the next, from meeting to meeting, or from activity to activity, and we don't take very much time in between. And so sometimes it's hard to make that transition. And yeah, we can chit chat and kind of break, whatever. But one thing we just, like the meditation today was of like a nice kind of break to help us focus, and maybe there could be more like short ones to just say, okay, we're at this meeting now, let's just take a minute and center ourselves and then work on what we're going to do, rather than like rushing into everything.
Right, so often we're just going from one thing to the next on our to-do list for the day, right? And being able to be mindful about your work day is really important too, and I would imagine that would influence the work that you then do with others and how you interact with others. So whether it's being able to have a mindful meeting, and things like the kind of centering that you can do at the beginning of a meeting, so just being really mindful at the beginning of your day or maybe the end of the day before about your schedule for the next day. I know that's something that's really helped me a lot, is to be able to be more thoughtful about how I spend my time during the day and being able to prioritize and just not feeling like you have to respond to every email that comes in immediately. And it really takes foresight and being mindful to be able to do that. So how can you be more mindful about the work that you do and about how you structure your day and structure your meetings, things like that. Do maybe one more?
We talked about the idea of gratitude, and we have a tool that we use in our department where we have like a gratitude form, so anyone like on the team has access to it, and you can write someone else's name and then write like something that person did really well at this event or this workshop or just in general, and then it's a way where you can look back on yourself too and be like, oh right, like I did that really great thing. I do feel like good about myself, or I feel good about like sharing something that someone else does really well. Be able to have that open communication and be thankful for each other really is very helpful.
Yeah, building that community and togetherness. And gratitude, we didn't really talk about it much, but it is a really important part of the practice of mindfulness and meditation. And that's something that we teach in the core classes. Is you have to do 10 minutes of meditation every day, but also a gratitude practice where we ask people that take the workshop to write down 2 different things that they're grateful for every day, but making sure that it's not the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And also what research shows in terms of when gratitude becomes really salient is tying a why to it. So not just saying like, oh, I'm grateful for the sun today, but I'm grateful that it's a sunny day because I was able to get out at lunch and sit down and enjoy time talking. So really kind of taking it to the next level is really when you start to feel the impact of that. So probably writing out what a coworker did forces you to do that, right?
Right. Yeah. I'll use that tool too. I like it.
All right.
So a question.
Yeah, sure.
I was just wondering if you have a technique that you found to be helpful for dealing with, it seems to be one of the biggest obstacles to mindfulness these days, which is your cell phone. Adults and kids, obviously, everybody, so that seems to be a pull away from mindfulness all the time, and it almost has an addictive quality because of the way it's worked up. Just, I know it probably is dependent on the person's situation, but if you had a couple of strategies, if there are any.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get the Calm app on your phone, and then you can be mindful. Not click any other app while you're there, or look at your notifications.
In the spring, I'm going to do a talk on mindful technology use. There's a lot of great ideas out there, so you might want to keep an eye out there for that. But I think one of the things is to first initially just bring to your consciousness how you use your phone, so kind of being aware initially. So when do you pull for it, and when you do, what are you feeling in that moment? So being able to just recognize, like, stop yourself before you pick it up. What are you feeling? Like, I always feel like at night when I scroll through Facebook mindfully for like 15 minutes and I could be doing something relaxing, it's because I need connection with someone. Like, I'm looking to connect with someone at the end of the day. So noticing that. And are there other ways that I could build that connection into the day so that you're not doing that? So, I think the first step is just to be aware with what's driving your motivation to use it. And then being able to kind of find alternatives so that those needs are being met. But it's really tricky because it becomes an addiction, like you said, because, you know, whether it's social media, you're checking your emails or Instagram or whatever, you're getting that hit of dopamine. It's making you feel good. And it's that same loop as if you're smoking a cigarette or taking a drug or anything that's making you feel good, your brain is like, oh, that felt good, I want to do that again. So you don't even realize it, but that's why you're drawn to do it again and again and again. And that loop gets strengthened.
And if you don't mind, because the scary part is, you know, a lot of the technology companies, whether it's Apple or Google or Amazon or anyone else that relies on people coming back. I mean, they've got a team of psychologists
Oh yeah,
figuring
working
out,
against you.
intermittent positive reinforcement. So we're almost being at their mercy
Right.
of really sophisticated techniques that it's almost like not a fair fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You kind of got to be aware of those things for like that they're actually happening. Like that's why like there's never an end to things, like a news feed. Like you used to read the newspaper and then there was an ending and then you put it down, you're done. But there's never an ending to anything anymore, whether it be shows that you watch or, you know.
Yeah, the 27 minutes will bring you the world, and now
Right.
the news just
It just
never
keeps coming and keeps
stops.
coming. And even like Netflix, the next show starts.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know? You're like, well,
Four.
let's start.
Although if you watch long enough, it will double check
going.
with you. Yeah, it would be like, you've watched a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Do that?
oh my god. Yeah.
All right,
It
so
has
we're
to
going
be
to
a
take
lot.
the last 10 minutes to do the activity with the beans here. I'm sorry I don't have things. So this is an activity that's just going to help you tune in a little more. So everyone have these? To what mindfulness is and being mindful. So first we're going to start off by just taking a look at the beans. So not touching them. It's okay.
There's no
You touch them
judgment.
already. Definitely don't eat them. They're really good. So just looking at the beans, noticing things like the different colors, the different shapes. Looking at how the light is maybe bouncing off each one differently. Imagining what the different textures might be when you feel them. Noticing any thoughts going through your mind right now or expectations, like, why is she having me look at beans?
I was thinking about soup.
Yeah. It's a really good soup.
So what I'm going to ask you to do now is to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. And using your hands, and only your hands, I want you to sort the beans. In whatever way you like to sort the beans. If you don't want to close your eyes, you can just look off to the side and don't look at the beans. Noting that there's no right or wrong way to sort beans. So I'm not going to judge you on your bean sorting abilities.
Some of us were catalogers.
Noticing what other senses are kind of taking over for you now that you're not using your sight. Paying particular attention to what's arising in terms of expectations, judgments, desires for things to be a certain way, especially you catalogers. are your thoughts now?
There's so many. Yeah. We're never going to be able to do it all, right?
This is stressful.
All right, I mean, essence of time here, I'll have you open your eyes and talk to us about this.
Could have been worse.
I made the rules tell colors.
Made it real simple. What was your rule?
I was trying to do all kidney beans and everything else.
Oh. No right or
We did it
wrong
by
way to do it, like I said. So what came up for you? First, what did you notice about your senses?
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Your spatial sense was off a little bit.
Yes. It was really hard not to hate.
That's our competitive
Desire to
Stephanie, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed like immediately like, oh, I'm gonna do the big things and I'm gonna take care of the big ones because those are the
Yes.
easiest. And then I was thinking, oh, that's probably a good way to go about making. And I was like, oh, I see what you did. And then I was like, oh, maybe you didn't.
No judgment. Yeah. Yeah. Did anyone find themselves like, am I doing this right? Is there a better way to do this?
Better way, yeah.
Right? Lots of judgment comes in when we're trying to be mindful, right?
Yeah, I was listening to Andrea because I figured she probably had a good method already. So I was like, can I hear what her method is?
Right? Comparisons. Like noticing there's some comparison going on. Yeah. What about, did anyone notice how loud the bean sorting gets when you're
Yes.
doing it? Yeah. A lot of times people will say that the sound of the bean sorting is so loud. Really focusing on it. What about the wandering mind? Were you focused on on your attention on the task, or did you find your mind was still kind of thinking about what you're going to do next? Yeah. So this is just a little bit of an experiment to show you all the different things that come into mindfulness. So being mindful allows you to be present in that moment. So maybe your mind was a little less likely to be thinking about other things that you had to do. But also noticing what comes up when you're mindful. Those judgments you might notice. Whether it be self-judgment about am I doing this right, or judgment about someone else, how are they doing it compared to how I'm doing it. Being mindful of, I didn't say this while you were doing it, but I often say the quality of your breath. So are you like feeling a lot of pressure to sort correctly and you're kind of breathing up here, versus are you mindfully breathing and taking more belly breaths? So yeah, so a lot of different things can come up when you do this exercise. Just a little bit of a flashlight into what being mindful is all about and what it means. So just to wrap it up here, closing thoughts. So if any of this resonates with you that I talked about today, here's some things that you can kind of do moving forward. So you can go to our website, rochester.edu/mindful. It will still redirect to a page on the health promotion website because there's a little bit of a bug in this one that the logo for U of R is like this big. So we're fixing that. But soon, everything about Mindful University Project will be on this website. And then you can scroll down, at least now to the bottom of this page. When the site's live, it will be the last tab on the right. This is Join Us. So that's where you're going to want to put your name and email so that you can find out about upcoming workshops, retreats, and everything else that we will have going on, so that you can make sure that you register for those if you'd like. Everything that we offer is free for students, faculty, and staff, so everything is very accessible. And yeah, so we have about 500 students, faculty, and staff already on that list. Our programs, especially the talks, the Everyday Mindfulness talks, usually fill up within 12 hours or so. So yeah, so if you're interested, make sure you get
competitive to get into that.
Yeah. If you're interested in taking one of our workshops, the Core Basic Workshop, we're doing the half-day retreat. You can sign up for those as well. I don't have the schedules posted yet for the fall semester. I'm still gathering all, as I said, we have 10 teachers now that I'm coordinating schedules for and booking rooms for and doing marketing for. But once that's up, you'll be able to just click on their class website and register, and everything is online. And there's an app that corresponds with the class too, so you can communicate back and forth with your teacher, and you can log your meditations in there. It's really cool. And then one of our drop-in meditation sessions that I mentioned earlier, that schedule will be on the website soon as well. We will have a social media presence soon. Not yet though. I'm hiring an MBA student from Simon to be able to develop our marketing. As much as I want to, I don't have time for that. So. And then just being an advocate to promote the Mindful University project to your coworkers, to the students who you work with, to the faculty members that you work with. So just helping us to spread the word. If you're on that mailing list, I'll often send out also like just flyers and things to help us promote that you could just print out the PDF and put it in your area. Whatever it might be to be able to help us to spread the word would be helpful as well. So thank you all for your time, and I appreciate spending this hour with you.
Thank you.